Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to decode some absolutely fascinating leadership principles hidden right inside ancient texts. We're specifically zeroing in on the qualities of a king in sanatan dharma. And look, these aren't just some dusty historical footnotes, right? They're incredibly vivid, super practical metaphors for how power and responsibility should actually be handled, whether it was thousands of years ago or literally today. So let's jump right in and ask ourselves a pretty fundamental question. What does it really mean to lead effectively? Because, we so often conflate leadership with simply holding a position of power or just sitting at the very top of some corporate hierarchy. But ancient wisdom, it completely challenges that modern assumption. It shows us that true leadership goes way, way beyond just having authority over people. In the context of sanatan dharma, leadership is actually framed as this profound divine responsibility. It's laid out using these amazing metaphors that paint the leader not just as a boss, but as actual avatars of protection, societal codification, and totally selfless distribution. So let's unpack what all of that actually means for us. To do that, we're going to cover four main areas today. First, ancient views on leadership. Second, the divine manifestation. Third, protector and societal codifier. And finally, distributing wealth like a mouth. Let's get right to it. Section 1, Ancient Views on Leadership. Now, it's pretty well known that across various cultures historically, kings were basically revered as demigods. If you look at historical examples in places like Nepal or Thailand, the king was viewed as way more than just a chief administrator. They were actually seen as a literal manifestation of divine will. And that sets a massive precedent, doesn't it? It means the expectation of a leader wasn't just, hey, be really good at managing things, but to actually embody this much higher, almost divine standard of behavior. Which brings us to Section 2, the divine manifestation. Bhagavan Sri Krishna actually lays this out so brilliantly in Chapter 10, verse 27 of the Bhagavad Gita. He breaks down the absolute supreme manifestations across all different types of beings. So, for example, among horses, the supreme is Uchchaishrabas, who emerged from the churning of the sea. Among elephants, it's Airavata, also from the churning. But here's the kicker. Among humans, the supreme manifestation is the king, or Maharaj Manu. So the big takeaway here is that the king is considered Bhagavan's vibhuti. The actual manifestation of Ishwara, the divine, is expressed directly through the king. It completely shifts the perspective. You aren't just managing people, you're literally tasked with manifesting a higher universal order on earth. How's that for a job description? Moving on to Section 3. Protector and societal codifier. Now, this highly conceptual idea of divine presence transitions into some very grounded, very protective action through this absolutely incredible story of crisis management. We're talking about Maharaj Manu. When a massive, catastrophic flood devastated Kumarikundam in the south of India, Manu didn't just sit back. He took incredibly decisive action. He became the savior, rescuing the Vedas and the sages in this huge ship, navigating all the way north, and finally settling in the place we know today as Manali. He stepped up as the ultimate protector, orchestrating what was literally a legendary rescue mission, right before laying the groundwork to rebuild society from scratch. But you see, protection was only step one. He then had to actually rebuild everything. And here's where it gets fascinating. Manu codified this newly saved society not based on birthright, which is a huge misconception, but strictly based on qualities and duties. He organized people super logically. You had the people who taught the society, the people who protected it, those who earned revenue for it, and then your service people, your engineers and craftsmen who built it. It shows us that a true leader organizes their society based on the practical value and the specific qualities each group brings to the table. And that brings us to Section 4, distributing wealth like a mouth. According to Tulsidas in the Ramayana, a king should be like the mouth of a body. Now, I know that sounds like a really simple, almost funny image at first, but the actual mechanics behind this metaphor brilliantly define exactly how a leader should be handling resources. Think about the healthy model of a body for a second. The mouth distributes. Sure, it takes in the food and the medicine, but it doesn't just keep it all there in the mouth, right? It distributes all that nourishment and healing out to the entire body. In the exact same way, a leader takes in wealth, like taxes from the society, but their job is to distribute it to benefit the whole system. But what happens if the mouth hoards? If food gets stuck in the teeth, what does it do? It rots, it smells, it causes decay. And exactly like that, if a king or leader is parking wealth just for their own selfish benefit, the entire society begins to degenerate. let's look at a highly relatable, kind of modern equivalent to this, the samosa analogy. Imagine a leader consuming excessively, just for their own personal benefit, basically eating way too many metaphorical samosas, while the societal body is what ends up getting sick. It gets diabetes, it gets diseased. The point is crystal clear. A leader's personal greed directly, one-to-one, translates into societal sickness.
The core message here is that the king should be very humble. He shouldn't eat too much for himself, and there should be literally no food stuck in the mouth. True humility in leadership means facilitating a perfectly clean, perfectly transparent distribution of resources, nothing selfishly hidden away to rot the system from the inside out. So, as we wrap up this explainer, let's quickly recap the 3 absolute pillars of leadership we've uncovered today. First, we have the divine manifestation from the Bhagavad Gita, which reminds leaders they need to embody a higher universal purpose. Second, there's the protector and codifier, drawn from the incredible actions of Maharaj Manu, teaching us to save and logically organize society based strictly on merit, qualities, and duties. And third, we have the distributing mouth from the Ramayana, which commands leaders to humbly nourish the entire societal body without hoarding a single crumb for themselves. When you put them all together, these ancient texts demand that a leader be principled, highly organized, and flawlessly selfless.
It's a pretty provocative thought to leave you with, isn't it? Whether you're leading a whole nation, a big company, or even just a really small team, take a hard look at how you manage resources and authority. Are you holding onto the food, letting it rot and ultimately degenerate the system? Or are you acting as that humble mouth, ensuring the entire body you are responsible for is continuously nourished and thriving? Definitely something to chew on the next time you're called to lead. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.